So law number 3 is the law of influence. And the law of influence says your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. Now, again, this sounds kind of counterintuitive at best, right? And, counterproductive at best, and maybe even Pollyanna at worst. And then you think about it, the greatest leaders, the top influencers, the consistently highest producing money earning salespeople, this is simply how they run their lives and conduct their businesses. They're always looking for ways to place other people at the forefront to make their. Now, here's the thing, and I think this is very important.
Mm-hmm.
When we say place other people's interests first, we don't mean that you should be anyone's doormat or a martyr or self-sacrificial in any way. Absolutely not at all. It's simply understanding, as Joe learned from several of the mentors in the story, the golden rule of business, of sales, what have you, is that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. And there's no faster, more powerful, or more effective way to elicit those feelings toward you and others than by genuinely, right, moving from an I focus or me focus to an other focus, looking to, as Sam, one of the mentors in the story, advised Joe, make your win all about the other person's win.
Most of us never learned how to train our brains, which is why most of us needlessly settle, struggle, and worse, suffer. My name is Chris Doris, and I want to make brain training mainstream. This is my series, Tough Talks, Conversations on Mental Toughness. I'm interviewing badasses from all walks of life on what mental toughness means to them and their unique approaches to strengthening their minds. Hey everybody, welcome back to Tough Talks, Conversations on Mental Toughness. I'm your host, Chris Doris, and before I get to today's guest, our housekeeping item is, as always, if you're not receiving my daily dose mental toughness tips in 30 seconds or less every single morning of the year at around 6 a.m. your local time, wherever you are in the world, then we got to fix that, And if you're not getting notifications of all my new blog posts, which come out every Tuesday, and if you're not getting notifications of these new Tough Talks podcast episodes, we can fix all of that so effortlessly by going to christopherdoris.com/lists, LISTS, name, email, click, bam, problem solved. You know what a podcaster looks like when he's like uber freaking pumped about his next guest? That. Yeah, baby. We got one of the authors of this world famous book translated into 30 languages. That's amazing. And I'll read you in his intro some other things, accolades about this. This is unbelievable. We got Bob Burg. We got Bob Burg with us today. This guy's amazing. I've never met him, but I know a lot of people who know him, and everyone says the same thing. He's just an angel of a human being, and he's brilliant, and his wisdom is going to rock your world. It's rocked mine. Initially 10 years ago when I read this book, and then I lost it. I gave it to somebody, never got it back, and then I got it again. Read the whole thing yesterday. I don't do that. I did that. I read the whole book in an afternoon because it's not the longest book in the world, but still, it's like riveting. I'm a slow reader, and I crushed it again. So he's going to take us through the 5 laws of stratospheric success, and I cannot wait for this. Let me read you his introduction. This is so good. All right. So for over 30 years, Bob Burg has been successfully showing entrepreneurs, leaders, and sales professionals how to communicate their value and accelerate the referral business. Although for years he was best known for his sales classic, Endless Referrals, it's his business parable, The Go-Giver, co-authored with John David Mann, that has created a worldwide movement. While part of a 4-book series, The Go-Giver itself has sold more than 1 million copies and been translated into 30 languages. It was rated number 10 on Inc. magazine's list of the most motivational books ever written. And it was on HubSpot's 20 most highly rated sales books of all time. I'm not the least bit surprised about any of that. Bob is an advocate, supporter, and defender of the free enterprise system, believing that the amount of money one makes is directly proportional to how many people they serve. He's also an unapologetic animal fanatic and served on the board of directors of Fairy Friends Adoption and Clinic in his town of Jupiter, Florida. You're about to go on an amazing, beautiful ride. Bob's here. Let's go find him. Found him. There he is, Mr. Bob Burg. How are you, my friend?
Chris, it's so great to be with you. Thank you.
I really, really appreciate this. I've been looking very forward. You know, I got to tell you a couple stories before we get into this, okay, to create some context. So first of all, I read this book, The Go-Giver, 10 years ago on a flight from Phoenix back home to Philly, and I'm a slow reader. That's about a 4.5 hour flight. I think I got it done in 3.5 hours. I could not peel my eyes off of this book. And it's just so, I'm sure you get that a lot. It's just so beautiful. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
What? You're welcome. You know what this reminds me? You know what my experience is of reading this? Remembering. It's like, geez, yes, that's like the normal way to live, through right, through service and giving and love. And so it was like a cleansing, right? That was 10 years. I took copious notes. I have had a folder, the Go-Giver folder of my notes, gone. I know it happened. It happens a lot with my favorite books. I loan them to clients or friends, and I must have loaned this, and it never came back. Thank God, because I got another copy, the newer version, right, with Arianna Huffington's intro and all that, or forward, and I got my new notes. I got all my new notes.
Wow, you're amazing.
And let me tell you something else. Now here's the real deal. I was about 20 pages in, Bob, yesterday. I read the whole thing yesterday, again in a few hours, and I couldn't stop. Same experience. 20 pages in, I had a thought. I wonder if he knows my former coach, Steve Hardison. So who is this guy? These are two of my former coaches, Steve Hardison and Steve Chandler, two of the best coaches, the best two coaches on the planet Earth. Yeah. And I thought, I mean, you guys are like two peas in a pod, you and Steve Hardison. So I texted him and said, you must know Bob Burg, the author of The Go-Giver. And he wrote back, I'll tell you, can I read you what he wrote?
Sure.
I have given hundreds of copies of his book away. I only know him through his influence in my life from consuming and applying many of his principles. Loving you both. Be blessed. Steve, tag me in the link when you post it. Can't wait to hear. Love you guys.
Well, I'm certainly familiar with both Steves.
You are.
Yeah. It's in fact Steve Chandler. What was the book of his I read that was really great?
He's got about 50 of them.
Yeah, I know. And I think I read 2 of them, and I'm trying to think of the titles, but they
maybe
were
this
fantastic.
one. Here's one of them. This is one of my favorites of his. Crazy Good.
Okay, that one I have not.
I don't know. But you know, one of my favorite quotes from Steve Chandler is, "Your bank account is a direct reflection of your level of service."
Exactly.
Right.
You know, couldn't be said any better.
Right. So I have a question for you that people won't get if they haven't read the book yet, but people who have might appreciate this. Bob, are you Joe and Pindar?
So I think all of us have been Joe at one time or another, Joe or Josephine, the person who had potential. They were kind of out after it. They were working hard. They were, paying their dues, but their focus just wasn't quite in the right place. Right. And hopefully in their lives, someone came along and they ended up kind of getting it, that they needed to make that adjustment. And they went from Joe or Josephine into learning and growing and so forth. I didn't see myself as Pindar. I think I'm more like Gus in the story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And,
okay. Yeah.
And, kind of the guy who put people together and was, and an encourager and so forth. We modeled Pindar, John David Mann, and by the way, you know, the book Reading as It Did, that's John. I mean, he was the lead writer and main storyteller.
And
I
so
mean,
everyone knows you're talking about the co-author, John David Mann.
he's a wonderful, he is just, I mean, I'm a how-to guy. I'm step 1, step 2, step 3, right? In other words, I'm boring. John is a fantastic storyteller. So, so we modeled Pindar after a guy named Bob Proctor out of Toronto, Ontario.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. And so, you know, we would say based on him. So he wasn't Bob, but based on Bob, the guy who very, you know, Bob's just such a great guy. He's always willing to help. He lives in a total abundance mindset. He's, you know, tall with the gray hair and, the gravelly voice and the storyteller, you know, so
it makes perfect sense now.
Yeah. So we pictured Bob as we were Bob Proctor as we were writing Pindar.
Do you know Bob?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That must be very flattering to him.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, I've learned so much from him, and I just think he's a fantastic guy.
Yeah. So to continue to tee it up for the audience, in one word, what is the secret to success?
Well, we say giving in the story. I think really it needs a tiny bit more of an explanation for in that when we say giving in this case. So you know, we would say what's the premise of the go-giver, right? It's that shifting your focus, just like Joe had to learn how to do, and just like I had to learn how to do back in the day. That shifting your focus from getting to giving. Now, when we say giving in this context, we simply mean constantly and consistently providing immense value to others, understanding that doing so is not only a more pleasant way of conducting business, it's also the most financially profitable. But Chris, not for some way out there woo-woo, magical, mystical type of reasons. It actually makes very rational sense when you're that person who can take your focus off of yourself and place it on helping others, discovering what they want, what they need, what they desire. When you can take your focus off yourself and place it on helping people solve and overcome their challenges, their problems, when you can take your focus off yourself and place it on helping bring others closer to happiness, okay? People feel good about you. They want to get to know you. They like you. They trust you. They want to be in relationship with you. They want to do business with you if appropriate, and they want to tell others about you and be your personal walking ambassadors.
Whoo, baby, man, I'm gonna go running right now.
So I got to tell you before I forget that I read religiously those 30-second bites you put out every morning.
Daily Dose?
Yeah. Oh, I love those. In fact, I have one scheduled to go in my, I do post daily on LinkedIn, and I have one of yours scheduled to go. And of course, with proper credit, with a link back to your website. So people can subscribe. But I got to tell you, because, you know, we all get so many emails and so many different things. So I'm not able to read everything every day as I'd like, but yours gets read religiously. It's really that good. Those are very powerful.
Goosebumps, man. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. I enjoy those every morning. Thank you.
Well, you just made my day. That is my favorite project of my life. And seriously, you just made my day. That's going straight in. I have a success folder on my on the sacred corner of my desk, and that feedback right there is going straight in there as soon as we're done. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah, you know what? I was inspired yesterday. I was reading the book at my kitchen table. And I got up at one point and I went into my bathroom and got a dry erase marker and wrote on the mirror right in front of my face, prioritize their happiness. Prioritize everyone's.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like, you know, I remember as a kid, we had a really big house. So and I'm from Philadelphia, so we had dealt with snow. So I was happy when we had a snow day, but then I was not happy because I was going to spend the whole damn thing shoveling snow. So as soon as I was done shoveling our house, I had an old neighbor, a woman named Mrs. DiBartolo, who was old and frail. And I remember I would shovel her sidewalk as quietly as possible so she wouldn't know. So she would just see it. That was like normal. That was like, and I'm really proud of that kid of me. I lost that girl, like as I aged, right? And then I was conditioned to be instead of like, I was just a natural giver. And I lost that, through conditioning to become the go-getter. Just getting.
And yet it was still part of you, and you re-identified it at a certain point.
Well,
Yes,
and you're helping me totally re-identify it. And that's why I'm telling you, the experience, seriously, is like of reading this book. I'm telling you right now, it's remembering who we are. And there was, so I can't remember who said it. Maybe it was Arianna Huffington in the foreword, or maybe it was in the introduction. But this isn't a way of acting; it's a way of being.
Yeah, it's kind of who you are, and because it's who you are, it's what you do.
Oh, right, perfect.
And I think that's really
right. Like, of course, that's what I do because that's who I am.
That's who you are, right? Exactly.
Okay, can you take us through in the way that only you can? The 5, and I love the 5 laws of I love that. Stratospheric, baby.
Well, might as well think big. I mean,
well, hell yeah, man. I love that because I use that term too. When people say, what do you do? I have different answers. Sometimes I say, I'm a success coach, and I define success as having your life in your terms. And I take people from doing amazing to stratospheric. So I love that.
I love it.
No, I use it all the time. So I love that you use it too. The 5 laws of stratospheric success. Can you take us through them? And
yeah.
Like to do
so
that?
the 5 laws themselves are the laws of value, compensation, influence, authenticity, and receptivity. The law of value says your true worth, in the business sense, of course, not in the human sense. We're all, everybody's has great worth, but your true worth in the business sense is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. Now, when first hearing this, it's a bit counterintuitive because it sounds kind of like give more in value than I take in payment. Sounds all nice and everything, but it also sounds like a recipe for bankruptcy, right? Give more in value than I take in payment. So we have to understand the difference between price and value. Price is a dollar figure. It's a dollar amount. It's finite. It is what it is. Value, on the other hand, is the relative worth or desirability of a thing, of something, to the end user or beholder. In other words, what is it about this thing, this product, service, concept, idea, what have you, that brings so much worth or value to another person that they will willingly exchange their money for it and be glad they did, while you also make a healthy profit. So a quick example that I like to use is the accountant you hire to do your taxes, and she charges you $1,000. That's her fee, or literally her price, $1,000. But what value does she give you in exchange that makes it so worthwhile for you? Well, she saves you $5,000 in taxes. She saves you countless hours of time, and she provides you and your family with the peace of mind and the security of knowing it was done correctly, right? So what she did is she gave you well over $5,000 in value in exchange for $1,000 price. So you feel great about it, and she made a very healthy profit. In fact, in any free market based, and I remember learning this from one of my great heroes, Harry Brown. He said, in any free market based exchange, and when we say free market, we simply mean no one is forced to do business with anyone else. Okay. In any free market based exchange, there should always be 2 profits: the buyer profits and the seller profits, because each of them come away better off afterwards than they were before. So while that's the law of value, it's important to understand why it works as it does. The accountant has you as a customer, you as a client, and you feel as you do about her, not because she was focused on her fee. Okay. She was focused on the immense value she was providing you. This is why we say that money is simply an echo of value. Money is an echo of value.
I love that. That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, it's the thunder, if you will, to values like, well, that's John David Mann's, poetry in action. So I could never think of something like that. But so the key is that the focus must be on the other person, as you said, making that other person happy as they understand happiness. Remember, value is always in the eyes of the beholder. It's not what we believe is of value or what we think they should think is of value. It's what they do. So when you focus on the value, the money you receive is just a natural result of the value you've provided. That's really law number one.
Can I share something with you as you're speaking that I'm feeling? And I can't wait to hear how you respond to this. I'm feeling like approaching life that way is actually way easier in a way.
Exactly.
Because it involves no paranoia, no fear and anxiety of, am I going to be okay? Am I being successful? And it's like a relief of like all this extra effort. And then like the effort that I put into prioritizing other people's happiness doesn't really feel effortful. Like I remember like shoveling Mrs. DiBartolo's sidewalk, and it didn't feel like any effort, even though I just spent 3 hours shoveling my own.
Right. Because it was congruent with your values of bringing joy to her life, of making her life easier and better, knowing that you are helping another human being that's congruent with your values. I believe that happiness, which, the dictionary definition of happiness is the mental feeling of well-being. Okay. And that's a great definition. It totally works. I have one that's a kind of deeper, just a little bit.
Good.
I define happiness as a genuine an ongoing feeling of joy and peace of mind, the result of living congruently with one's values.
Ooh.
So when we're living and acting congruently with our values, we're happy. When we're not, we're not happy, right? And so, yeah.
Right on. Okay, let's go to law number 2.
So law number 2 is the law of compensation. And this says your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. So where law number 1 says to give more in value than you take in payment, law number 2 tells us that the more people whose lives you touch with the exceptional value you provide, the more money with which you'll be rewarded. Your accountant in the first example did a great job of giving you more in value than she took in payment. And you feel great about her. You do business with her again, and you would most likely refer her to many others. Well, her other clients feel the same way. So our accountant is very quickly amassing what we call that army of personal walking ambassadors. And as she continues to add that kind of exceptional value to the lives of more and more people, her income will continue to grow and grow. In the story, Nicole Martin, the CEO, explained to Joe, the protege, that law number 1, the law of value represents your potential income. Law number 2 represents your actual income because it's all about the lives you impact, as Steve said earlier when you were quoting him, right? And so that's really, what it comes down to. So we could say that exceptional value plus significant reach equals very high compensation.
Beautiful. Okay. And
now, law number 3 is the law of influence. Chris, I may have lost you. Are you still there?
We are. We had a little pause. I think we're good.
Hello?
Yeah. Can you hear me? I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, I got you back. Lost you for about 10 seconds. My apologies.
Right. Well, we're just giving, you know what? That's the universe giving the listeners a second to integrate all this unbelievable gold wisdom.
Thank you. So law number 3 is the law of influence. And the law of influence says your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. Now, again, this sounds kind of counterintuitive at best, right? And, kind of productive at best, and maybe even Pollyanna at worst. And then you think about it, the greatest leaders, the top influencers, the consistently highest producing money earning salespeople, this is simply how they run their lives and conduct their businesses. They're always looking for ways to place other people at the forefront to make their. Now, here's the thing, and I think this is very important. When we say place other people's interests first, we don't mean that you should be anyone's doormat or a martyr or self-sacrificial in any way. Absolutely not at all. It's simply understanding, as Joe learned from several of the mentors in the story, the golden rule of business, of sales, what have you, is that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. And there's no faster, more powerful, or more effective way to elicit those feelings toward you in others than by genuinely, right, moving from an I focus or me focus to an other focus, looking to, as Sam, one of the mentors in the story, advised Joe, make your win all about the other person's win.
You know, there was the phrase that stood out. You'll have to remind me who it was that articulated it, which character in the story, but the advice was golden, and I captured it. Stop keeping score.
Yeah, that was Sam. Stop keeping
Oh,
score.
that was you.
No,
I know you're Gus.
yeah, yes. But although, hey, Sam, I'll take that one.
Yeah. But that's big. Can you say anything about stop keeping score?
Yeah, well, because it's human nature in a sense to keep score, right? So when we can kind of put that aside, so people say, well, what about self-interest? People have some, yeah, well, it's how people are built. It kind of, our ancestors back in the cave person days, that self-interest helped produce the next generation and all that, right? And right. That gets hardwired, as they say, into the DNA. Mm-hmm. We're not asking anyone to deny their self-interest. Okay. What we're suggesting is to willingly suspend your self-interest. Put your self-interest to the side. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that you can absolutely, positively focus on bringing value to others. Now, why? What practical reason is there for that? Well, when I speak at sales conferences, I'll often start with the following sentence. Nobody's going to buy from you because you have a quota to meet. And we all laugh because we're all salespeople, right, and we know this is true, right? Right. They're not going to buy from you because they're not going to buy from you because you need the money, and they're not going to buy from you because you're a nice person. Yeah. They're going to buy from you because they believe they will be better off by doing so than by not doing so. And I can't think of any other legitimate reason why they should buy from you or from me or from anyone else. So doesn't it make logical, rational sense that to the degree we take our focus off our needs and we place the other person's interests first, that's the degree they're going to feel as though they want to buy?
Isn't that fascinating? So when you spell it out like that, it's like, yeah, duh. We're interested in being amazing. That's the most obviously successful approach. How's it ever? We don't need to get too philosophical about it, but maybe you have a formulated opinion on this. How did that get so messed up? How did we get so self-centered and so paranoid about our own welfare?
Well, because I think it is human nature.
Okay.
I think it is human nature. And people operate that way. And we know people are emotional beings. They're driven by emotion, driven by ego, driven by, and it just kind of is the way it is. So I think that when we can go kind of contrary to that and look for the logical reasons for doing so, and so I think that's what people like yourself, the two Steves we were talking about, and many other people that you and I know, the messages we're trying to get across.
It reminds me of Alan Watts, who's one of my favorite teachers. And he says, we're playing the ultimate game of hide and seek. We hide ourselves so we can find ourselves. And you're reminding me of us. This is all of this, the 5 laws of stratosphere. So brilliant. Is finding ourselves, right? It's remembering who we are.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Okay, so where are we at? Number 4?
So, law number 4 is the law of authenticity. And this says the most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. In this part, Deborah Davenport, who is the mentor in this part of the story, she shared a very valuable lesson. She was speaking on stage, and she shared this with her audience. And Joe was with Pindar in the audience watching. And what she said was this: all the skills in the world, the sales skills, technical skills, people skills, as important as they are, and indeed they are very important, they're also all for naught if you don't come at it from your true, authentic core. But when you do, when you show up as yourself, day after day, week after week, month after month, people feel good about you. They feel comfortable with you. They feel safe with you. Why wouldn't they? They know who they're getting, right? Consistency is very, very powerful. And this is where really the relationship just boom, it just really takes place. Now, I think when people don't show up authentically, it tends to be not because they have malintent. I mean, there's plenty of people in the world who do bad things, so we've got to be aware of that. But I'm telling 99.9% of the time, when someone doesn't show up authentically, Chris, it's because they just don't have the self-confidence to do so. They don't recognize their own value.
So in the story, what was her name? Davenport? What was her first name?
Yeah, Deborah.
She tells that beautiful story. I actually got choked up reading it, which I thought was beautiful. She tells a great story of how, she's the real estate agent, right? And she's trying A through Z is great. Did you make all this? That's some
again, if it's brilliant, it's John.
Okay, well, John,
if it's mundane, it's me.
John, if you're watching this, way to go, man, because that's some impressive stuff right there.
By the way, John has a mystery thriller coming out with Brandon Webb. Brandon Webb was a Navy SEAL. Okay. I mean, just a real, and John and Brandon wrote like 5 leadership books together. They finally wrote an action thriller. Look, I've got it right here. I just started reading.
Nice.
It's called Steel Fear.
Fear.
And Lee Child, who is the guy with the Jack Reacher stories.
Okay.
He wrote sensationally good, an instant classic, maybe an instant legend. So I'm about 6-7 chapters into it. It's gripping. I am telling you.
All right,
they
cool.
outdid themselves.
Okay, so I'll put that in the show notes as well. I'll put a link to that and I'll get it. What was this? Oh, the story. Yeah. So what happened in the story was that Davenport, she gave up, right? She stopped trying to use all the techniques she learned, right? That she felt was going to get her sales, and she went out and this one last, right? And she was with a client, a buyer. And she just stopped caring. She stopped giving a shit about any of these techniques. She's like, the hell with it. I give up. I'll just go hang out with this. This is my last one. I'm quitting because I suck. And then she just got real, and they bought, right? And that's the beauty.
She lost her attachment, right?
She lost her phony. She lost her commitment to acting.
Yeah, and she was just herself, and she offered herself. She realized she was the gift.
Yeah.
And so often that is. So again, I don't want to in any way say we shouldn't learn our craft and of course all that is given. But it means that when push comes to shove, we show up as ourselves. And Okay.
And then finally, the law of receptivity number 5.
Yeah, the law of receptivity says the key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. And this really, Chris, more than anything else, is simply saying, you breathe out, you've also got to breathe in. It's not one or the other. Breathe out carbon dioxide, breathe in oxygen.
I love
breathe in, breathe out, which is giving, breathe in, which is receiving. Giving and receiving, despite the messages of lack that we receive from the world around us all the time, giving and receiving are not opposite concepts. Giving and receiving are simply 2 sides of the very same coin, and they work together in tandem. The key is that the giving comes first, and this is just universal law, right? We plant before we harvest, we sow before we reap, we give before we receive. But when we do this, and the receiving comes, what we do with all the giving and the touching lives and the creating influence and being authentic, we create what we call the benevolent context for success. And as this prosperity comes to us, we've got to be open to receiving it.
I love that's beautiful. The benevolent, what is
context?
Context.
Yeah, the benevolent context for success.
Yeah. And then the book, the analogy of oxygen and CO2, right? And that the trees need our they need our exhale.
We feed each other. Yeah,
fantastic. I thought about a million times through the book, where did this all come from, man? Like, was there an event? Was it a series of events? Was it you and John's lives? What was the thinking behind the creation of this?
Well, both John and I had careers in sales and entrepreneurship. We both grew up in families where our parents set great examples. So, that was a total advantage having that go. But I'll tell you what, in terms of the business sense, for me, I think got this really going to the point that it became part of me. I'd been in sales for a couple of years, and I've been doing well because I studied and I learned and so forth. Okay. But I started with another company, and we were selling a high-end product, high-ticket item. And I was in a slump. I was probably, I guess, 26 years old or so. And I was in the slump, and I was having trouble getting out of the slump. And the more of a slump I was in, the more I was focused on myself and making the sale instead of the other person. So it was having just the opposite effect of what it should. I come back to the office one day, and there's this guy there. He's an older guy. I didn't know him very well. He wasn't even in the sales department. I think he was in the engineering department, and he retired soon after. He was one of these guys who, we've all known people like this. He didn't say much, but whenever he did, it was always very profound. And I think he saw me as sort of like Joe, who, I'd write about years and years later, but he saw me as that up and coming, young, ambitious, aggressive, but totally, messed up and, not hit right. And he said, Burg, he was a last name kind of guy. He said, Burg, can I give you some advice? And I said, yes, please do. I need it. And he said this, I'll never forget it. He said, Burg, if you want to make a lot of money in sales, he said, don't have making money as your target. Your target is serving others. Now, when you hit the target, you'll get a reward, and that reward will come in the form of money. And you can do with that money whatever you choose. But never forget, the money is simply the reward for hitting the target. It ain't the target itself. Your target is serving others. And here's the thing, Chris, here's what I took from that. I don't know if I took it from on a intellectual level or if it just kind of got my heart. I really don't remember. But here's what I got from it. Great salesmanship is never about the salesperson. Great salesmanship is never about the product or service, as important as that is. It's not about that. Great salesmanship is about the other person. It's about touching the lives of people and bringing value to them. It's about another person's life being better because you are part of it. And I think when we approach sales, business, any kind of relationship from that premise, if you will, that foundation, I think we're really 9 steps ahead of the game in that 10-step game.
It's like, infinitely consistent with all of research on human peak performance. It's flow. It really is. It's flow, which is always like people, when they describe peak experiences, always use similar terminology to describe them. And part of it is effortless ease. And as I listen to you, I keep having the same, when I read this, as I listen to you, I have the same experience. It's like, yes, yes, yes. Let's have it be this easy. So like all the reward that so many of us miss out on because we're so inner focused in fear, when we could be experiencing all this effortless ease and beauty of service. I love that. Man, so good. I love that. So I know you got to get going, but there's a couple. Can I have a little?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So what do you find that people most frequently get wrong about the go-giver way, like the misunderstandings?
Yeah, I think there were a couple of them, a couple main ones. One is that, well, if you're a go-giver, you're somehow going to get taken advantage of, right? So again, remember we were talking about earlier, there's nothing about being a go-giver that's congruent with being a martyr or self-sacrificial. Right. And what I suggest to people is if you find yourself being taken advantage of a lot. Now, I'm not talking about once or twice or 3 times. It's going to happen in everybody's life unless you just don't talk to anybody. I mean, I'm not talking about that. I'm saying if you find yourself in a pattern of being taken advantage of, it's not because you're a nice person. It's not because you're a giver. It's because you're doing things in a certain way that creates the environment for you to be taken advantage of. And if that's you, I suggest to people, congratulations for acknowledging it. Because once you acknowledge it, you're in a position to do something about it. So now you've got to begin to look inward. And you've got to ask, why is this happening? Why am I always a participant in that? Okay. What is the emotional payoff? Which sounds counterintuitive, but there is a payoff for it. And I don't know what it is because I don't know the person.
Right.
It might be that it might be the looking for sympathy, being able to be a victim gives you an excuse for not being successful. Again, I'm not saying, I don't know.
Right.
It might be you don't have the tools to be able to say no or decipher when something, I don't know, but it's something that needs to be worked on.
Mm-hmm.
Another, I would say, you know, when they think about being a go-giver is, well, a go-giver is just gives themselves away. Absolutely not. You know, as though you're not making a profit. Go-givers tend to make the biggest profits because remember, a go-giver doesn't sell on price, they sell on value. So a go-giver tends to be at the high end of the price scale, and they tend to be very, very focused on providing an immensely value-based experience. So they're actually more profitable. Okay. So again, I think what we always need to remember is when we say go giver, we're simply talking about a person who understands the why it's in everyone's best interest to take your focus off yourself and focus on bringing immense value to others.
Thank you. Was there an actual city, like a real city, that this was the story took place in?
Nah, it was kind of like probably a Midwestern, mid-sized city type of thing.
I was
Yeah.
trying to guess the whole time.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It's not like in the Simpsons where it's like everything Springfield or, you know, where it's the, but yeah.
Now here's a big question.
Okay.
Is there a real Eophrastes?
Kind of, but not really. Here's the thing. Some good friends of mine owned an Italian restaurant when I was a kid, and their last name was, they pronounce it Iafredi. But
sorry about that.
No. We pronounce it Eophrastes.
Oh,
because it's the Italian pronunciation would be Iafrate. So no, we always pronounce it Iafrate whenever we're talking. But they, anglicized it and called themselves Iafredi, but we call it Iafrates. Yeah, can you imagine they call themselves Iafredi?
Right.
But they're a wonderful family, and their restaurant was fantastic. But no, we didn't. We used that name for the restaurant, just in honor of my friends.
Because if there was, I'd go.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I'd fly there next weekend.
I know.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, my friend, thank you, not just for your time today, but for who you choose to be and the liberation that you bring to so many, who knows how many millions of people that you've touched. You're a beautiful human. And thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you, and likewise, right back at you. And again, thanks for those morning nuggets of wisdom that you send every morning. I really appreciate them so much.
That's so beautiful. Where should we send folks? What do you want people to know about what you're up to now? Or where do we want to direct them?
So Burg, burg.com is probably the best place because it has everything, and they can scroll down and get chapter 1 or an excerpt of any of the books to see if they like where it's headed. One thing I would suggest is that they look into, and as they scroll down, they'll see a few people at a coffee, at a cafe. It says Rachel's Famous Coffee. Okay, so if you've read the book, you know what that is. If you don't know, it won't mean anything to you. Right. But click on that. That will take you to our Go Giver Success Alliance membership community. And this is a group of people that we all get together, and we strategize with each other, we collaborate with each other, we build powerful relationships with each other, and the wisdom that goes back and forth through this group is immense. Wow. So I would suggest people take a good look at that one.
Okay, I'll make sure we include that in the show notes as well. Bob Burg, you're amazing.
Thank you, Chris. You are too.
Thank you. That's right. That's right. Bob Burg, reading CDs, Daily Dose, every morning. Get you some. What a guy. Huh? I love that dude. How do you not love that guy? I'm telling you right now, you know, if you haven't ever read this book, you have to. I don't care if you're in sales, if you're a human, okay, if you're a human being that's alive, which I'm assuming by virtue of you witnessing this somehow, hearing or watching, then read this book, please. If you haven't read it, in the last 5 years. If you haven't read it in the last 1 year, read it again. This is staying on top of my desk. There's only a handful of books that are on my desk, and this is going right there. This is one of my new Bibles. What an amazing man. My goodness. And I can't wait to go check out on his website, the Success Alliance. So let's all go do that. All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in, as always. If you're not on the Daily Dose list, get on it. ChristopherDoris.com/lists, LISTS, and get you some. Until next time, folks, create miracles.